Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love, money, mine. Love, money, mine. This is freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, this is Anna, and welcome to another episode of your Freedom Podcast. In this episode, I interviewed Charlie Jose Brown. Charlie is a mother-focused, heart-centered coach, CTC Master Therapist, yoga teacher, and women's circle facilitator that believes that you can be both the mother and the woman you dream of being. She helps mothers reconnect and return home to self so that she can reimagine and redefine motherhood, life, love, health and wealth on her terms for her family. She is so inspiring. You are going to love to hear her story. I cannot wait for you to listen to this episode. So, hi, Charlie. It is great to have you on the show.
Hey, how are you? I'm so happy to be here.
I know, I was thinking earlier, you know what? It's interesting because we're all like in a community where we are there as experts, and some people have come across, have crossed my path, and we've got to know each other. But there's a lot of the experts that I haven't as yet. And I think you're one of them that I've seen all your stuff in the Facebook community, but we haven't actually kind of had this opportunity to have like a one-to-one chat or connection. So I'm pretty excited about getting you on the show, because whenever I've seen some of your mindfulness stuff that in the group, I'm like, I listen for a bit and then someone interrupts me and I'm like, I have to come back to this. So it's great to connect with you as well as kind of like getting you on the podcast. So for those of you that are listening, Charlie is, and this is where I'm like, I've got to make sure I get this right. Charlie is a heart-centered motherhood and life and motherhood coach. Holistically, I think I messed that out. Is that correct? I think I kind of got it right. But you do some powerful stuff for women and mums to help them through this kind of minefield of motherhood. I think I would put it in summary. And so I know.
No, that's
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's right. So I always it's funny, isn't it, when you have to try and describe exactly what you do, but you've got so many different things that contribute to that body of work. So I always kind of try and say, I'm a heart-centered, mother-focused, holistic life and motherhood coach. And really that's just to help. It's a mouthful, right? But people always say, get really clear on what you do. And I've narrowed it down because I do CTC Master Therapy and NLP and EFT and women's circles facilitators training. And there's so many things that I do in that body of work. But ultimately, it's just about working with mothers in particular and helping them to really redefine and reclaim what life, motherhood, and business means for them in this season of their life. Really empower them to reclaim this season of their lives for themselves.
And it's interesting because I was talking about my 3 pillars on this podcast, which is freedom. Because of freedom, I toyed with the idea of freedom for ages, because you see digital marketers like freedom, 100K in 30 days. I'm like, I didn't want it to have that connotation, but I kept coming back to the word freedom because with my journey, we're going through domestic violence and like leaving that behind me, I really felt like I was going on this freedom journey. So I just kept coming back to it. I thought, I'm going to stick with it. I talk about my 3 pillars, which are freedom in love, which is more around self-care and our own self-love, really, as well as giving out love to the world and other people. But it's not really a romantic thing, it's more about ourselves. So freedom in love, freedom in money, because I do think it's not about having loads of money but it's being able to not be pressured by money and being able to make choices with your lifestyle and things like that. And then freedom in mind, which the word mind kind of went with love, money, mind, but it doesn't do its justice, the word mind. Because on my journey, like you're saying about, EFT, NLP, I think when you do go through a kind of traumatic thing or lots of different things, you go on that healing journey, don't you? And I remember weirdly, I remember like going into court hearings and doing EFT before I went in because I was really anxious. So it was a tool that you know, that helped me on that healing journey. 10 years ago, someone said I'd be doing EFT. I'd be like, that's a bit woo woo for me. I would never have thought.
Yeah.
Never would have thought I'd have done like meditation and all these different things. Um, but so that's what kind of like mind means to me. And personally, it was more about allowing myself to just be like, okay, I'm having a really crap day, you know, rather than
Mm,
I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine all the time. So those three pillars have like helped me get like equilibrium, I think, in my life. Because when one of them
mm,
still, I check in, you know, because I don't believe that we can ever get complete balance. But when I feel like, oh, you know, I'm not looking after myself, I'm like, oh God, freedom and love. I need to like, you know, or if I feel like I've thought, you know, it's not about being positive all the time, but if I'm feeling like we all still have bad days, it's all still a
yeah.
journey. That's what humans have, isn't it? But being able to recognize that, okay, this is going to pass. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? And then
yeah.
like with the financial thing, I've always got different goals, and you know, wanting to kind of live a life of freedom with the boys. So I know that you will. I know because I know your journey. But it'd be great if you could share to everybody listening, because I'm sure you're nodding, and I know people listening to us on iTunes, everyone on YouTube will be able to see Charlie nodding, but people listening on audio won't be able to. But so, how did all of this fab stuff that you're doing now with your coaching for mothers and this life coaching, how did it all begin? Like, how did it all,
Mm.
you know, how did you get to this
You
point?
know what? It's such a big question, isn't it? Because I think
Yeah,
you get to this point in your life, and for me personally, this point in my spiritual and personal development life, where I can now look back on every single thing that's ever happened and see how it's all aligned perfectly to get me to where I am today, doing what I've done today. If I go kind of right back to the beginning, like even as a kid, I knew that I was different to my family. And so I grew up um, in a house with really severe domestic violence. So I didn't meet my real dad till I was 16. My stepfather was incredibly violent to my mother, and I, more so my mother. So I kind of really adopted this very mother-like role very, very early on. Yeah, where I kind of mothered my mom, I mothered my siblings. And but I also knew like I had such a deep sense of awareness, even as a kid, that that wasn't right. You know, I was this kid that would hang out the bedroom window and kind of talk to God, or, you know, and even at that time, I didn't believe in God, but I didn't know about spirituality either. Like that was just not in my realm of understanding. No one in my
yeah,
family
yeah.
was that way. Everyone in my family kind of had these very toxic, unhealthy relationships, you know? And so that's my childhood then really heavily influenced my early adult life. So growing up, I was very much the good girl, and I was very much the one that kind of kept the peace and kept the shit together, really.
Yeah,
I didn't realize I had mental health problems, or that my childhood had impacted me in such a way until my early adulthood. And by which point I went really downhill with my mental health, because what I learned, or what I came to realize, is that my coping mechanisms as a child did no longer serve me as an adult. And I
right,
really,
yeah.
really struggled with that, you know. And so for a period of about 3 years, I went on this real steady decline into mental health, to the point that I tried to commit suicide back in 2010. And that for me was like the biggest turning point. That for me was when something unraveled in me, where I knew for me personally, it wasn't about going and getting medication. I did initially to help me get over the next hurdle, but I knew that there was a big spiritual process I needed to go through to heal the parts of me that I hadn't yet healed. And so it was almost like this process of remembering. Like I went back and I remembered that little girl that was so wise. And I remembered that little girl that knew and was so deeply connected to the spiritual world. I just lost sight of it, you know, as you do. You
Yeah,
go through your teens, and I was going to uni, and I lost sight of that part of me. And I felt that that was kind of the universe's big kick up the ass, to be honest. And that really sent me into this deep dive of personal development and spirituality to the point of obsession. And I would say I'm still very much obsessed with it. Like, my friends think I'm so weird. They're like, do you ever just read normal books? Do you ever just watch normal TV? And I'm like, I really don't. I freaking love everything. um, and so I just immersed myself in the world of spirituality and personal development. I've gone 10-day silent meditation retreats, and I'd
Yeah.
go and work with other life coaches and go to self-love seminars. And, a little bit like what you explained there, was just trying to come to what my point of freedom was, what was freedom for me, so that I could create a new life for myself. And so I did that, and I became a CTC Master Therapist and learned NLP and EFT and went down that rabbit hole of all of those incredible modalities. And then motherhood came. And as we all know, that too can be a massive spiritual awakening. It can also be like a huge trigger for other stuff. And I don't know if you found that, but I just kept finding, and you know what, we all get to this point. I don't know. I mean, we all do. We go, feel like I've fully dealt with that. I'm fully healed. I'm all good. And then,
Yeah, and
like
then
I always
something
say, new
pops
level,
up.
new
Yeah,
level, new devil. And then motherhood was that for me. It was just like this, oh shit, there's stuff that I thought I'd dealt with that I hadn't. And
yeah,
even to this day, I have these triggers where I'm like, oh, that maybe needs a little bit more work, or it's just about bringing awareness and acceptance for me on how that's kind of
I think also,
unraveled. But then,
I don't know if
yeah.
you, I don't know if you think this, because that just like reminded me, like, we're always trying to find this like perfection. Because I know, even though I don't want to admit that, because I'm like, no, it's fine not to be perfect, but I know I don't want to be perfect. But when you were saying that about like the triggers and stuff, it's like I've done the same way. I'm like, oh my God, that's like that. I obviously need to spend more time working on that. Why? It's like sometimes, why can't we just actually say, okay, that triggered me. And yeah, why do I need to? It's just being aware, in it, a lot of the time. Like what?
Yeah.
Yes, we do need. Yes, there could be some work. I'm not saying there isn't any work that needs to be done, but actually, it's fine, isn't it, to be triggered by something,
Mm.
because it just
It
means
is, and
you're aware.
it's a
If we didn't notice we were being triggered, that would be more concerning, I think. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
If, like, I'm right, and this is not a trigger, and da 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 da. Whereas actually,
Mm.
because it kind of triggers something that we've already worked on, it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
But that's
that's
part of the work, isn't it? You get to that
yeah.
place of awareness. And you know what? It's so funny because I talk about, I've got 12 threads of transformation that I work through, but also there's 6 pillars similar to you. And one, the first is always awareness. It has to be awareness.
Mm,
And, and then one of the others is acceptance, because a lot of the time people would come to me and be like, can you just get rid of this anger? Can you get rid of this limiting belief? Can you get rid of all of these things? And part of me is like, yeah, there might be work to do around that, but you also come to this place of acceptance.
yeah,
And, going back to what you said about
yeah, it's
perfectionists as well,
exactly.
it's the human nature is we are
Yeah,
going to make mistakes. And the way that we evolve is through mistakes and through challenge. And, even to this day, 15 years nearly now, I've been deep diving into everything. Because I started a personal development journey before, but I still get triggered, and I still have these moments of why am I doing what I'm doing when I know what I know? Because it's human nature. I go up the spiral and I
yeah,
go back down the
exactly.
spiral. The difference is I pick myself up a lot quicker now. I
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
myself up quicker. I can recognize, I know now what my core the essential things I need, my resources, my toolkit, my meditation, making sure I've got a good evening routine for good sleep, being in nature. Like, I know what my things are, and if they fall by the wayside, I know I'm going to go back down that spiral
yeah,
again.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know I'm going to get overwhelmed again, because that's just being human.
yeah.
And
That's
I've
it.
had to really come to accept that that is part of the process. I think sometimes in the world of personal development and spirituality, people think that it's just this one linear path
Yeah, like, oh,
where
I
we
know
just get
yours.
more and more and more and more conscious. But really, it's like you go up, you come back. It's like a freaking shit show half the time. It's not an easy journey.
And especially when there was something I saw the other day. It was like I've seen it before about men's brains and women's brains, and it was all like women's were all like all over the place, and it's like we've also got to accept that like as women, nothing's ever going to really be linear. I don't think.
Nothing. We're cyclical beings. I did a whole training on that inside of the Entrepreneur City the other day around the masculine and the feminine. We ebb and we flow. We just do. And, I've learned to harness that and work with both those energies now. But for a long time, I would beat myself up about it because I was trying to match my husband's energy, who's always, like go, 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 go. But I would just find that I'd just get burnt out and depleted. And,
Yeah,
and our culture also kind of makes us feel like there's something wrong with us because
yeah,
we're so
yeah.
up and
Of course,
down and
yeah.
emotional. We're kind of led to believe that we're the problem, which is just absolute crap. It's just
Exactly.
we've got to really embody that, we are cyclical, we've got our own internal
But It's,
seasons that
it's
we've got to
also
work with.
it's also like funny, isn't it? It's like as humans, if we've got a personal trainer, we like show off about it. But if you've got someone that's helping you, like maybe with mental health or even self-development, it's like frowned upon a little bit, you know. Because
Mm,
I had like a talk therapist for a while, and I know a lot of people when in different healing modalities, like, oh, talk therapy can sometimes really damage it. But at the time, it was brilliant because there was actually a lot of firefighting going on in my life. And I was feeling like it was probably just me, but I was feeling like I was a burden to my friends, or just saying the same thing to my friends, and no one really understood
mm,
me. Like no one understands me. Whereas it was great just to literally just dump all this on her, while I was
yeah.
in firefighting, and then obviously I moved on to the, like you say, modalities and different things on my journey. But she ended up becoming a friend, because I'd got it I'd got the referral through the police actually. So it was all funded by the police. And then basically in 2 years, she went, I think we need to end it now. I think we need to end this now. We were like sharing books, and it became like a real positive, like self-development swap. Do you know what I mean? She
Yeah,
became like a
yeah.
really good friend of mine. I actually interviewed her on the podcast, and she said to me, she was like, I've got a therapist. And I was like, well, yeah, I was really like surprised. And she was like, yeah, because I just see it as like, I want to just check in that I'm doing all right. And I thought, I loved that. I thought that's a really
Mm,
good, and we talked about it, how like when people are trying to get fit, or they're really interested in their health and fitness in that way, it's like, oh yeah, I've got a personal trainer to show off about it. But a therapist, or
mm,
maybe like, it's probably different a little bit with self-development, but definitely like therapy, it's like, oh, you've got a therapy, like, oh.
mm,
And
yeah.
it's just really interesting where actually in all aspects of our life, whether it's we need something, we need a business coach, we need a personal trainer, we need someone that's going to help us with like our healing and mindset, self-development, all that kind of stuff. Life
Mm,
coach, um, even like relationship coach. Do you know what I mean? If
yeah,
everybody had
yeah.
all these things that we were, everybody's life would probably be a lot healthier, really. But we
Mm,
prioritize certain things that, again, it's like our ego, isn't it? It's just interesting.
mm,
Humans are it fascinates me, all this. That it's quite interesting.
yeah.
Um, and
Yeah, and I remember actually when I was going through the real peak of my depression, there was so much shame around it. And I felt so
yeah,
embarrassed because, to everyone else looking in, I had nothing to be depressed about, because I'd emigrated to Australia. So English, but now live in Australia, have done for I don't even know how many years now, 16, 17 years. Um, live by the beach, looking in, everyone was just, they couldn't understand it. But partly why I love what you're doing with this podcast is they also didn't understand the story. They also didn't understand the history of everything that I'd been through up until that point
yeah,
that had impacted and was then now coming out. But I had so much shame and I felt so embarrassed. And I remember speaking to my mum about it, just going, just don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anybody. Because, and there's this real, and I think it's shifting now. People are getting a lot more comfortable about talking about mental health. But you're right, we track how we spend our money, or some of us do, maybe we should more. We track, our health and wellness goals. We track so many things in life. But if we're not tracking our relationship, if we're not tracking our mental health, it's so easy to veer off. And before we realize it, we're in this we're in this place that we don't even know how we got there. You know, if you look at anything, we need to be able to measure daily what we're doing and how we're feeling. You know, that is ultimately what cultivates that sense of freedom, is with that awareness. And if we're not measuring
Exactly.
it, how do we know?
How do we know? Exactly, exactly. It is.
You
It's
know,
really, I
especially
find,
relationships as well, where
yeah,
people end up
exactly.
getting divorced and they don't know when they lost that connection, because
Yeah,
there was no measuring in that. There was no coming
exactly.
together
People
and
just
going,
do it. They were just living, like living the day to day rather than actually focusing on it until it was too late, I
yeah.
think, you know. So
And
yeah,
we did that. I think we all can do that. Like
yeah.
the other part of my story is that we had 4 successful businesses. We built our house in Australia and we ended up selling it all, trading it all in. And I mean, we sold everything. We sold multi-million-dollar businesses. We sold um, the house that we'd built to go and live in a caravan and travel around Australia. And people thought we were mad. And I was like, but the thing is, we're not happy. Again, it's because everyone else's version of success
Yeah,
was not our version
exactly,
of success.
exactly,
Me and my
exactly.
husband were nearly ready to kill each other and get a divorce. I felt like I wasn't being the best mom that I wanted to be. And I felt that I was, over promising and under delivering in our businesses, even though they were successful. But everything was just disconnect. And I remember I pulled my husband aside and we went for a drive. And I just said, we're selling everything, we're starting again. And he was just like, what do you mean? What does that look? What? Like nearly shit himself. But I was like, I know that there's a better way. I know that there is a better way to live our life. And that was also a big part of why I then started to work with mums in this arena, because I want mums to know that they can have it all, but they have to be the ones to figure out what that is for themselves, not keep
Yeah.
fighting this narrative of what we're told is
Well,
successful.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think there's so much that, like, I felt that in the corporate world, and I think in some respects, there's some things that have got worse and got bad with the whole digital age, isn't there? Because now, like I was saying to you before we click record, like about my son, like there's this pressure
Mm,
to be, like on TikTok or certain things where it's just, this pressure to be a certain way. I call it like the pajama families at Christmas, when everyone's in the matching pajamas.
mm.
And don't get me wrong, I've done the matching pajamas,
I
but
love a matching pajama.
what I'm saying is we see it, don't we? The posed picture around the Christmas tree, and there's that pressure, especially at Christmas time, that your family ain't like the picture. So I think there's always this society pressure. I felt it in the corporate world, going up the corporate ladder, having a company car and all that kind of stuff. And I think I'm really grateful for my journey because it's created who I am as a person. Like obviously, like
Mm,
I was saying before, everyone knows me as like the e-commerce coach. But for me personally, I just think I'm a better mother, a better daughter, a better friend from the journey that I've been on, because it woke me up to actually I don't really care what people think about me now as I did before. I was very much a people
mm,
pleaser, and I was also
mm,
I did have that when I left uni and started a corporate career. I was really like focused on that society thing.
mm.
Actually used to look at mums who stayed at home with the kids as like beneath me because I was this corporate woman with a company car, and oh, they don't work, they're
Yeah.
timers, and I'm like being open about my thoughts. And when I became a mum, I was like, shit, like this is a lot. I don't want to go back to work. I want to be a mum. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I went in like admitting like you can't. It's that whole experience thing when you experience something, and I felt it with the whole domestic violence stuff as well, like ashamed to share about it. And then I was like, no, I'm going to
Mm,
do it because I'm proud of my journey. It's given me that purpose. I've helped other women going through the same, and it's made me who I am, and I'm proud of that journey.
mm.
It's nothing to feel shame.
Yeah.
So, but I think obviously you got to find that way for yourself, and you kind of work it out
Mm,
for you. But um,
yeah.
it's just
Yeah. And I
interesting to
love
see
that
what.
because I think we are also in this culture where we try and spiritually bypass the crap, right? And I don't like that. I don't like when I see kind of personal development or spiritual coaches or whatever just talk about, well, we just need to be grateful for everything. And it's like, you know what? The gratitude often comes after. Like when you're
Yeah,
going through a shit time, you're not going to be like, oh, there's a
No.
real good lesson here. I know there is. I'm super grateful. No, like this is crap and this is hard and I'm finding this challenging and I need to
Yeah.
ride this wave out and I need to be fully immersed in what
I
I'm
need to be like
feeling and not
you're in
suppress what I'm
survival,
feeling.
aren't you? You're in survival mode, really. Is
You
that
are, and you're not going to, sure, you can see moments of some things, maybe, but I'm a big advocate for just calling a spade a spade. Like now I'm at this point in my life where I can look back and similar to you and go, I would not change a single thing in my life,
yeah,
even when at times it nearly broke me and I didn't want to
yeah,
be here anymore.
yeah,
There is not one single thing, one moment, 1 second that I would change because I actually really love who I am now today.
yeah,
I am proud of the woman that I am and that I'm still becoming. And, you know, I know that for you, you talk about freedom, and freedom is one of my core values as well. And, you know, for me, that is kind of freedom. And I know you'll ask me this shortly, but just getting to that place of peace that you
yeah.
just
It
don't
is, exactly.
I don't care what other people think. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm not
Yeah,
here to
exactly.
be anything other than I am. I no longer seek the need to be
Beautiful. Like a,
understood.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
I
I don't know
think
if that comes with
it's
age
got,
or
I
just
know,
the
I thought
work or
the same. I said, and me and my friend were talking about it recently. I was like, I think I've got less tolerance as well. Like, is that an old age thing,
mm,
maybe? Because I said, I see that in my parents. You know what I mean? They don't care. They'll just say what they want. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
yeah.
maybe there is an experience, a life experience thing as you go on this path, or journey or path,
Mm.
or whatever. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
was talking to someone yesterday, actually. I was on another podcast yesterday, and we were talking about that exact thing because people talk about like the midlife crisis, don't they? Like, oh, everyone just goes crazy midlife crisis. And I'm like, or do they? I was like, I feel like, especially for women, we've been so conditioned culturally, socially, generationally, even ourselves to be the people pleaser. We've been conditioned that our sense of value comes from the things that we do for other people. And I think we just get to the point where we go, no, I
yeah,
am valuable. And I'm not here just to be, you know, picking up after everybody. And no, what I
exactly.
do say does matter. And I think we just get to the point where we're like, I heard a saying years and years ago that a man marries a woman hoping she'll never change, and a woman marries a man hoping he will. And I laugh about that because me and my husband have been together for 18 years. And he's like, you are so fucking different. He was like, no comes out of your mouth more than yes ever does these days. And I'm like, because if it's not a full yes, I'm a no now. I don't feel
Yeah,
like I need to please anybody. I'm just
exactly.
like, does that work for me? Is that in alignment with my values or what my family needs right now? Is it taking me closer to or further away from my goals? And I
Exactly.
can just be very like,
I
and I
think
don't feel
you
like I
get
need to
less ego.
explain myself.
It's less of the ego things, isn't it? It's like actually, yeah, it's time. Well, for me, time has just become. I know that shit sounds cheesy, but it has become more important. Or just what gives
Mm,
me content and happiness. It's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be taken off that down that. No,
mm,
it's
yeah.
feels easier to say no. Um, but what I was going to ask you is listening to your journey for someone who could be listening to this who is feeling pretty stuck right now, whatever it is, because let's face it, it could be anything. It could be, something to do with like losing their job or in their business. It could be, financial, could be something to do with their personal journey, maybe their health as well, or their relationship, or, whatever. If they're feeling stuck, because I remember at one point just feeling a bit numb, like my soul was dying, really, is how I could describe
Mm,
it.
yeah.
But I didn't know what step to make, to where to go and things like that. I know obviously we were talking about like being aware, the awareness and what was the other acceptance as well. But if you are aware but you just feel stuck, anything you want to share as regards to like what would you know, it's not really advice, but what would you, if someone's listening like that, what would you say could help them really, I suppose?
Mm. So I would say, yeah, the first thing is awareness. I think the second thing for me is the acknowledgement. I think often we don't just give ourselves time to acknowledge where we're at. We're trying to bypass it and get to the next thing really quickly,
Yeah,
and even, with motherhood, we don't acknowledge what a massive transition and transformation it is. We just get through to the next stage. And I think there's so much power and wisdom in that acknowledgement phase where we can just sit in it a little bit and acknowledge, I am not where I want to be right now. I don't feel good right now. I feel numb. I think giving it language, I think giving it a voice, rather than trying to, you know, change it or manipulate it or stop it. I think before we get to that place of acceptance, we have to just acknowledge it. We've got to acknowledge what's going on for us right now. And one of the ways that I do that, because with some of the somatic therapy stuff I do in terms of being in my body, I always ask myself 4 questions. So the first one is, how am I feeling? I'm always like, how am I feeling right now? And I will just have a pen and paper, and I might just literally word vomit all over a page. Like, how am I feeling? The second thing I always do is kind of put one hand on my belly, one hand on my heart, and I just put, where am I feeling it? Like, where am I storing it in my body? And then I'll go on to the why. Like, why am I feeling like this? And sometimes it might be because something happened that week, and then I'll get curious about that. Oh, so and so said this to me. All right, well, why did that ignite something within me? Oh, I remember, because that happened when I was 3, and that's big. Oh, isn't that interesting? And then
yeah,
I go on to the next, which is, what can I do? What simple changes can I do? What can I start doing? What can I stop doing? And what can I keep doing to start to move the needle here? And it doesn't have to be this all or nothing approach. I think we're in this very quick fix society where we want instant results yesterday, but what can we do to start, stop, and keep moving the needle in the direction that I do want to go? And I
yeah,
think that's really important. But acknowledgement, we have to be in that place of acknowledgement. Otherwise, we're just trying to spiritually bypass where we're at. And that will come up again unless we take the time to honor, acknowledge, and work through that, because the acceptance comes after that. And, I think from someone being, like I said, at that place of suicide, another really beautiful reminder for myself, even on the days that feel really shit, is everything in the human experience is full of duality. We have darkness, but we always know that the sun is going to rise. So we have
yeah,
light.
yeah,
We have the sky, we have the earth, we have rain, we have sun. Everything is full of duality.
yeah, I
And
like
so
that.
for me, I have to come back to that and just remind myself that this is hard right now. But
Yeah,
the opposite to that is soon it's gonna pass through, and it's
yeah,
gonna feel more easeful. And so they're the kind of, and still to this day,
I
I
know.
go through those kind of little conversations with myself,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I do, but it's like different. It's just, it's nice that it's going to add to mine. I like the duality because I always think, yeah, I'm on a shit day, but it's, like you say, it's going to pass, and there's better days coming, um,
Yeah.
and we can't control obviously our environment and other things, other people or other events and things that are going to happen. There's going to be
Mhm.
more stuff in the head of our journey, isn't there?
Yeah.
That happen is sort of like either trigger us or set us back or something. It's like allowing yourself to go through it. Like I think
Mm.
this was the old me. I used to beat myself up for like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Just not allowing to release that energy anywhere. And it wasn't until,
Yeah.
even though I'd always been into self-development, I think it was when I don't know if it was a podcast or a YouTube, it was something that I watched where it was talking about how disease, if you're stressed, basically, it can manifest into physical disease, like with other conditions, things like
Yeah.
that.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
knew loads of people it had, and all I thought was, I have been living this like firefighting stress life for a long time now, where I'm like, I'm fine, I'm
Mm.
fine, I'm fine. I'm not releasing anything anywhere. And you just know other people have got poorly with different things, and I thought I really need to take a grip on this and allow
Mm.
myself to, it's fine if I just want to go to bed and cry my eyes out, because actually I'm releasing that energy.
Mm.
I'll feel loads better
And
after.
you have to get
What's
it
wrong
out of
with
your
that?
body.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
you have
I
to.
thought
They
it's
say
a
that
shame, you
emotion.
get what I mean? I was just like
Yeah,
constantly,
this is
shame, I can't let the boys see me upset. You know what I mean? I was like this brick wall of like, yeah, strength. And it's just, I look back and laugh at me now, then. Whereas now,
mm,
I'm just like, I don't care. I'll just do what I want. I'm like, best it
mm,
is. And I'm like, I have to, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's gone, isn't it?
yeah,
That moment is gone.
yeah.
And I
But you
think,
know, redefining that, redefining what strength means. And this is the thing, right? And this is the thing I love about coaching. And this is the thing that I love about working with women and mothers in particular. Is like we get to make the fucking rules here. But for some reason, we seem to have forgotten that. You know,
yeah,
we get to redefine what strength is to us. You know, is it not really, you know, is it not strong to be really vulnerable? And you know show where you're at, but then also lead from a place of love and be the example. Is that not strong? Like it is. Let's reframe
yeah,
what strength is. You know, we get to be the ones to redefine all areas of our life, and I think that we forget that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're making me think of moments like when my son's like, Mum, do you really have to be so open? Do you know what I mean? Because I'll just feel like, like in front of his
Yeah,
friends or just like, because I'm like, there's no shame, there's kind of like no shame and whatever. I'm like, not really bothered about what people think, you know what I mean? So it's just quite,
yeah,
you were just triggering me on memories then of like funny things where I'm like, maybe I'm a bit too open. But I think a lot of, if you haven't been through that, the kind of like a healing path. I think a lot of people that have get
mm,
it, but other people that haven't sometimes a bit taken aback, a bit shocked that you're being quite open and upfront, not necessarily rude,
mm,
coming across as rude, but just speaking your truth. I've got no like, I don't really care
yeah,
about what you're going to think afterwards. It's just me. I'm just saying it as it is, and I think you become a
yeah.
bit like that. So people who are listening to this, me and you, I reckon me and you could literally sit and talk for hours on this topic. I've got that feeling. But for people listening to this that are thinking, wow, this Charlie lady. In fact, whereabouts were you in the UK before you went to Australia? Because I was trying to work out the accent. I think down south. You were definitely
So
down.
I'm from a little town called Melton Mowbray in
Okay,
Leicestershire.
Leicestershire. Yeah, that's not that far
Yeah.
from me, really. I'm in Worcestershire now. I originally was near Manchester, well, Blackpool. I say near Manchester, little seaside coastline resort. And then my friend, she lives in Ashby, Delazoo, she's not far.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nice around there, and the pork pies, as you probably had people tell you loads of times. But yeah, I was
No one
thinking.
ever knows it though. It's refreshing to speak to someone from England that actually knows what I'm talking about. I'll say Melton Mowbray over here, and everyone's just like, "What? Where?" I'm like, "Pork pies?" No, no one's got a clue.
But for people who listen to this thinking this Brit that's gone Oz, sounds amazing. She sounds really inspiring. I need her in my life. Like, how can people work with you? Like, what's the best way they can reach out to you? Where can they get some of like some free content, or tell us about how you can help people or help mums in particular.
Yeah, so you can go onto my website and I can give you the link there. There's a couple of free ebooks on there. There's also a free masterclass on there around matrescence, which is basically the transition and transformation we go on as women, which really gives you that acknowledgement, especially, the transition and transformation of motherhood, I should say. I'm also over on Insta. I'll be honest, I'm bloody shit. I'm still navigating the world of social media. Like you put me in a conversation like this and I love it. You put me in
Yeah,
front of
yeah,
people to work with and run workshops. I'm all over it. Social media, still finding my feet, but I'm on it. So I'm over on Facebook and Insta. So I'll give you the links to that as well.
yeah.
And I do
Everything's in a,
have
everything's in the show. So for people listening to this, all of Charlie's details will be in the show notes if you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify or any of the podcast channels. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, you'll be able to
hello.
see in the comments section all of Charlie's contact info and socials basically. But go on.
Yeah.
How do you work with women? Like, is it a program or?
Yeah, I've
one-to-one?
got a couple of programs. So I've got a couple of online program. One is a Nurture Her prenatal yoga and wellness. I'm in the process of revamping that as well at the moment. The other one is called Motherhood, What the Fuck Happened? And as we were talking about this at the beginning, I tried to romanticize that title, but ultimately we all have those days where we're like, what
Love it.
the fuck is
That is
happening?
definitely a book
And so
title.
yeah, and yeah, maybe it'll be a book one day too. And that's really a self-paced kind of coaching program that really takes you through the understanding, the acknowledgement, and giving you the language of what happens. You know, the theory, the sociological perspective of that, the history of what we also bring into our motherhood journey as good girls and people pleasers, and all of those sorts of things. So that's a really powerful program. And then I also work one-on-one. Next year, I'll be opening up my group coaching program again, which is called Mother in Kind. So there's many different ways people can
Yeah,
get in
yeah.
touch and work with me. My books are closed for one-on-one right now, but they'll open again in the new year.
And I know you were talking about retreats and things before. Have you got any retreats in the pipeline or planning or anything like? Because imagine you running or being part of retreats. I love a
I
good.
do love to run. I love to run retreats, and yeah, I do. I haven't got one scheduled, but that will probably, we're also just about to open another business. So my husband's a chef by trade, and we're opening up a cafe at the moment. So and where we are in Australia, we're in this beautiful coastal town, which triples in population. So we're coming into our summer. So we're going to ride that wave out of peak season, and then I'll look to put some sort of retreats up on the website as well. I'm really keen to
Yeah,
get back running retreats. I'm a yoga teacher as well, so I bring in
I
lots of
love it.
different
Love it.
things that I
Yeah.
can offer in a retreat space that I love. And I just love getting together with people in person as much as I
Yeah.
possibly can.
It's funny because I've been working, I kind of started my whole online thing when the boys were little, and I just wanted, to be that mum, as we're talking about motherhood, at the school gates, because in the corporate world, I was always away, and then ironically, I remember when they were a few years ago, they were like, oh, well, do you have to pick us up? Because everyone's going to the after school club. I was like, Jesus Christ, I've like changed my whole life. I can pick you up. And now you're like, everybody else is what parents are working. You want to hang around with the kids in the after school club. But now that they're teenagers, I'm just wanting to get out more, as in do in-person stuff. So this year I've done quite a few
Mm,
in-person events with different workshops.
mm.
I did a kind of book retreat, which Emma came on actually when I was in Spain.
Yeah,
And
I saw that.
we had like hit the therapy. It was like an in-between of kind of like the workshop and stuff. And then just this next year, I'm planning so much more in-person stuff because I just love it. I think some people are into that sort of people connection. Not everybody is,
Yeah,
and that's fine. We're all
yeah,
different. But now that I can be a bit more flexible because the boys want their independence as well. I want to be able to walk home, and it's really
mm,
nice. I'm sort of excited about
yeah,
what to do next year because I'm going to do more of it. I'm
mm.
like, I can do more of this. It's worked.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I love it. And I do monthly women's circles here where I live, and I'm going to bring them in the online space as well. Because my kids are still so young. I've got 3 boys. We homeschool. So we're together all the time. So I've got a nearly 9-year-old, a 4.5-year-old, and a 20-month-old. So by all, intents and purposes, still very much in the thick of early motherhood. So managing my time and making sure I use it efficiently in a way that really lights me up and energizes me, so I can still be the mum that I want to be,
because I
is
remember
really
when
important.
my two were really young, like I think Jacob was like they both went at school, so Jacob would have been like about 3, and Reuben would have been a baby because there's like 2 years between them. I remember setting up like a mums networking group. It was mums in business networking. We used to meet in, like soft plays, because obviously our weather's rubbish all the time. At the park if we could do. I used to love.
Mm,
I really did love that. And then
yeah.
I like went more into the online world. Because I met someone recently from those days, and it was like, oh my God, I remember when I was doing
Well,
all
it's
that.
so important. I love doing women's circles, and there's so much power that happens when women come together and
Yeah,
gather,
yeah.
especially in a women's circle where you can be vulnerable and you share your stories in
Mm.
the circle. And, the art of storytelling has been lost over the years, but it's so powerful. And I love holding women's circles. I love holding space. I love gathering women. You know, there's that beautiful saying, you know, it takes a village to raise a child and care for a mother. And we've lost that over the years. We've
Yeah.
lost that sense of the village, and we're never meant to do this on our own. We're never meant to do life on our own. We're communal beings. We're never meant to do motherhood on our own, and we're never meant to do business on our own.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're just not meant to do that. So I love that we can integrate the online space with the real world as
With the
well.
outside space in a way that but yeah, brilliant. I love that. So I'm going to wrap things up because I know we could literally talk for another hour. I could just got that feeling. But we should definitely arrange to connect again. Maybe not recorded. But I always ask everybody that comes on the podcast a question, which is, what does freedom mean to you? And when we do the birthday episodes, we sometimes cut the answers back to back after the question, which is quite interesting. So I know you kind of answered it before, but Charlie, what does freedom mean to you?
You know, I think similar to yours, you know, some freedom to me is living life on my terms and being unapologetically and authentically myself in all areas, and just getting to this place of peace. You know, I think fulfillment is the heartbeat of freedom for me, is making sure I feel fulfilled in all areas of my life. And that comes through connection with the people I work with, connection with my friends, with my family, with my children. Yeah, I think I've really got that now. I've created this life of freedom. And with that, this financial freedom, this freedom of mind, this freedom of heart, this freedom of speech, this freedom of body, so that I can move my body in ways that I want to move my body. You know, for me, it's yeah, the art of fulfillment and just finding that place of absolute peace.
Peace.
Even when it's
Yeah.
shit, you're just at this place of peace because you know you're going to ride the wave, and you know that you can because you've done it before, you know. So
Exactly. I love it. I love it. I'm like nodding and agreeing to every word that you were saying. So it's been great having you on the show. You're such an inspiring lady. And just hearing your full, I kind of knew bits of it, but hearing the full story, I think it's really inspirational how I love meeting people who have gone through sort of like different traumas or different, sort of not so nice parts of their life, but able to empower themselves, but then spread that and empower other people.
mm,
It's completely what you
yeah, I always say that your mess is your message. There is a message there, you know, there's a reason why we had those life experiences.
exactly.
And
I think that. I think
I'm
it's
a
like
big believer in that.
it's happened to, because I remember having this moment and it's weird. I keep meaning to raise it with my mum, but I remember going, a lot of my friends were having different difficulties in their life. And I think I was like 19 or 20, so I was fairly young. And I remember saying to mum, well, I feel like my life is pretty perfect. Like, there's nothing, all of my friends, I was always this person that was always there for all my friends. And I was like, I wasn't saying it in like a show off way or anything. I was just saying, like, I feel like everybody's got all these things. My mum was like, yeah, I've often felt like that. And mate, she agreed with that. And then it felt like after that moment, my world kind of, it was a few years after that things start, what I mean, started crashing down. It was like, why did I even make that statement? Do you know what I mean? But I feel that like my whole journey has been that reason. I think maybe I needed it because it was like nothing amazingly happened in my life. So it kind
Mm,
of woke me up to a lot of things about myself, and also it's just made me.
mm.
I just feel like more enriched in a way.
Mm. You know what? It's funny, and I know we're going to wrap it up, so I won't go into too much detail, but I think that we are always being invited. You know, I talked about this the other day inside of a mentoring group. You know, the next version of me requires more of me right now. And so there's some things I'm doing, investing in my life. You know, I just spent 20 grand on a bloody life coach and doing other different
Yeah,
things. And, you know, the next version of me requires more of me, because we are always being invited to change course, so always being invited to grow and evolve. But often we're so busy and we're often so in this cycle that we find ourselves in, that we miss it. And I think that sometimes, unfortunately, things have to get really hard before we even pay attention. But if we were aware in the first place, it wouldn't ever need to get to those places sometimes. But as I said, everything is duality, and people need experiences, and people need to get angry about really important things for there to be change in the world. And I think I see that as partly our role. We've had those experiences with domestic violence, that now I'm a huge advocate and support women and families that have gone through that as one of the charities that we donate. It's one of the local organizations that I work with. It's just those experiences evoke something in us that make us want to do and be more.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Like I say, we could talk for hours.
I know. I'm going to shut up now.
We literally could, though. But it's so lovely. I love meeting people where there is that connect. Do you know what I mean? Where it's that synergy, with everything that you're saying. So it's been fab to get to know you better. Thank you for coming on the show. For those of you listening, do reach out. Go and follow Charlie on the socials. Like you say, she needs a bit of fluff up on the socials. But go and check her out on her website and all of her ebooks that she was talking about, and all of her fab programs. It's been fab having you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And if you want to get more freedom in your life, then come and join Your Freedom Project Facebook group, which the link is below in the comments section. And I am giving you a copy of my visualization manifesting book. So manifest more freedom in your life and live the life of your dreams.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. Bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group. Now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back. Right now is the chance. This is an experience. It's the Freedom Podcast. Hey.